Welcome back. We're discussing safe supply. Is it doing more harm than good? Is it actually safe? What's your opinion? Well, join me to share his is Adam Zivo. Adam, thanks again for coming on. Just before we went to commercial break, we were discussing youth ingestion of these substances, many of them distributed through safe supply. Recently, the BC government announced a plan that they're looking into providing fentanyl for minors, for children. Explain to us what is happening and when that will start and when it will.
Well, so last August, the BC Center on Substance Use, which is a research organization that basically functions at arm's length for the BC government, released provincial protocols that enable the prescription of safer supply fentanyl. And this is for both adults and minors. So now, wherever you are in the province, you can go to a doctor if you are addicted to drugs, and they can prescribe you fentanyl pills as a form of safer supply. What was really noticeable about those protocols is that they explicitly acknowledged that there was no evidence that this intervention actually worked or that it could be done safely. And in fact, acknowledgement that the lack of evidence base was a necessary precondition for giving informed consent for being on safer supply. So we are basically giving out huge amounts of fentanyl with no actual reason why, no scientific backing. Now, what I thought was really interesting here is that safer supply is available to minors, whether it be hydromorphone or fentanyl. And the reason for that is that safer supply is framed as a medical intervention. And in Canada, youth have a lot of latitude to consent to medical interventions, so long as they are considered mature minors.
Correct.
So in BC, if you're 13 or 14 years old or older, you can consent to safer supply. You can receive it, and your parents can't stop you from receiving it and can't stop the government from giving you free fentanyl and giving you free hydromorphone because that would be blocking access to a medical treatment.
Well, the parents
So
may not even be
essentially,
aware.
yeah, they don't actually have to be aware. That's even worse, right? And so by framing free opioids as a form of medical treatment, the government essentially turns itself into a parent's worst nightmare, which is a drug dealer that has unlimited supply and unlimited access to their kid, which I think is deplorable.
It's actually amazing, and I don't mean that in a positive way. It's truly amazing, and I'm so much shocked that we're having this discussion. Many know that I'm a parental rights advocate, so yeah, I mean, there's a very fine balance, making sure children have what they need and independent of parents, but also really the parents should oversee their children. That's their job. They're their guardians. This just seems so undermining parental authority and really, to me, undermining the child's best interest because surely the BC government doesn't think it's in the child's best interest to be a drug addict.
They don't, but they think that, oh, if they're using fentanyl, we may as well keep them alive. But they don't think about the other treatment options that can be given to youth. For example, putting them in rehab or detox. And in fact, a parent cannot force their kid into involuntary treatment. So your kid can receive free drugs from the government without your consent or knowledge, but you cannot force your kid to go into treatment, which is really broken. And I think there's an underlying lack of discussion about what it means to be a mature minor here.
Mhm.
BC allows you to make their own medical decisions that they can comprehend the medical decision in play. But how is it possible that a youth who is addicted to fentanyl can consent to receiving safe fentanyl, considering that addiction hijacks their mind and removes any real competency for their decision making?
So are parents speaking out? I'm sure there are parents with children who are addicted who are saying enough already. Like, we need to heal my children, and the government's standing in that way.
Well, so I wrote an article about this safe fentanyl thing back in January, and that sent shockwaves throughout the country. And from my understanding, now it's become a major point of contention and it's been brought up quite a lot in political conversations around safer supply. So it seems as if people are speaking out. The safer supply people have responded by saying, oh, this is all exaggerated. And they say two things. First, they say, not a lot of kids are receiving this fentanyl in the first place, to which the response is, well, then why do the protocols even allow this in the first place? And how can we trust that this isn't going to grow in the future, given that safer supply has continuously gone way beyond the bounds of what was initially pitched? The second thing is that they say, oh, there are actually adequate controls for accessing safer supply, because if you are a youth who wants to receive safer supply, there's a special process where two doctors have to sign off.
Mm.
But the fact is that if you have two doctors working in the same clinic, it's very unlikely that they would undermine each other's prescribing decisions. And every physician who I've spoken to has said that this method of control is grossly inadequate considering the stakes involved.
My goodness. Again, I'm sure our viewers are finding this conversation very shocking. We're going to continue. We have another segment left before we wrap, but we will be right back after this commercial break.